back, my friends, to the In Obscuria podcast, a podcast where we exhume obscure rock and punk and metal, and we put them in one of three categories: the lost, the forgotten, or the should-have-beens. My name is Kevin Williams, and today I'm joined by Mr. Robert Harrison.
As always.
As always. What's going on?
99% of the time. There's that
That's
one
true.
time.
I've had 2 shows.
Is it 2 shows? That's right. Yeah, because
I
Elizabeth
did 2.
and then the time freezing.
Lowest downloads ever.
Just a coincidence. It was
Yeah.
a bad week. There was a big news item both times that week. There was a big news thing. It just threw everybody off.
But we're not going to go alone. We have you here today. What's going on with you, man?
Man, spring has sproinged. Good gosh almighty.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's awesome. It's beautiful weather. Everything's happening at one time. I've got 2 meetings tomorrow with city officials to talk about public art projects here in town. People are starting to inquire about booking the firehouse for events later on. So yeah, I'm pretty much over this quarantine crap. We're ready to go.
Getting back to something that looks kind of like normality.
Yeah, it's soon.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're going somewhere in August, especially now that everything's looking better.
It's August or September? It's August, right?
Well, if you go in September, there's not going to be anybody else there.
Yeah, it won't be as much
If you go in
fun.
August with me,
It'll be more fun, probably.
yeah, we're going to go to Rock and Pod Expo. And tell you what, I'm going to bring in an expert to talk about Rock and Pod Expo. Guess who we have?
DDP.
No, but he lives here too.
Oh, yeah, no.
But no, we have Mr. Jeremy Zamora. What's up, man? Welcome back.
How do?
You went to the Rock and Pod Expo. You've been twice.
I have been twice.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a good time both times.
Nice.
I got a lot of good records both times.
I have to get some good advice.
Saw
Where to
some-
drink,
Saw
where
some
to eat.
interesting acts and interesting people, and you even won a guitar, didn't you?
I did. It was a full band Tesla signed acoustic guitar on a ticket that I didn't purchase. It was awesome.
Sonny Pooney, thank you, man.
Yeah, appreciate that. I still have it.
Oh, I was
Haven't-
going to ask if you ever got
you
rid of it.
need. You need more guitars. That's what you need.
I plan to, but it's just sitting there really in the box still. I pulled it out. It's not close to in tune, so it sounded fantastic.
You get your one-man acoustical jam going on.
Well, tell the people what goes on at the Rock and Pod. Obviously, you bought some vinyl. What else do you remember from the event? Don't really remember the first one too well. We went a little crazy. The very first Rock and Pod, I think that's the one where we went to see Blackberry Smoke as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
we-
about all I remember.
We saw a couple Nashville local kind of 80s thrash metal sounding bands that were pretty awesome. I don't remember either one of. Oh wait,
Din
The
Din?
Tip, maybe something like that.
Something like that.
Just the tip?
Just the tip.
Just The Tip. They were great, and I remember watching Metal Parking Lot or something. It was along that line.
Yeah.
The band was called Metal Parking Lot?
No, it was
we
a
watched,
movie.
we watched the
Oh,
movie.
I was going to say, because there's a movie that... Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the very first one, they had the guys come up from the Metal Parking Lot movie, which is that one that was shot in the 80s,
Yeah.
them
Oh,
going
yeah.
around,
It's
the
a
Dokken
classic.
and Judas Priest
Classic.
hang out. Yeah. So the guys from that were featured in that were at the first Rock and Pod, and they all got up and did a panel question and answer thing. It was really cool.
Yeah, man. We did the parking lot, and it was really loud, and had a good time.
Basically, and some of them brought their kids. And,
Oh, God.
one of the guys looks...
Were they conceived in the parking lot?
I don't know. One of the guys
Probably.
looks... Probably.
At least in a van.
One of the guys looked like Wolverine. Remember that?
Oh yeah. That was the first one, correct?
Yeah, that was the first one.
They went a long way from the third one. Lot bigger venue, lot bigger acts. I mean, Dave Ellison played.
Right.
That was awesome.
Yep.
To hear
Michael-
some of the
So
obscure
who are the
Megadeth
acts,
songs.
Who are the acts this year?
Who were the acts this year? Well, let's look up. Oh, it happens to be Ron Keel's coming back. Let's see. We've got Billy Sheehan.
Ooh.
That's a big get.
That's a big one.
That's
Yeah.
a big one.
That's a
I mean,
nice
he's
one.
tall.
I mean,
Yeah,
He
he's
kind
really
of knows
tall.
how to play bass.
I've heard.
I think, and then there's Tommy Skio, who was in Tesla. Now, I don't think he's on your guitar because I don't think he's been in Tesla since a while back, but he's going to be there with his new band. They're one of the bands that are playing.
Okay.
And a whole bunch of other people are going to announce every week. They're going to announce different people that are joining, and different podcasts are signing up. So we've been announced. We're going to be there, obviously.
Yes, that was pretty
Jeremy,
cool.
if you want to join us, I know it's your birthday weekend usually. So if you want to come, if you're not working,
We'll get a
you're
room with a
welcome to
couch.
come.
You know, both of us snore like freight trains, so you probably want to get your own room.
I don't know. Apparently, I snore now. So I didn't know that.
You
because
snore?
I'm not awake during that.
Yeah.
But apparently I do now because I guess the new job working, and it makes me so tired.
Yeah, we're
You
good.
know what else does it? Being an old man.
Maybe that's it, too.
Welcome to the club. Drinking heavily and oldness.
Yeah.
Those two things.
It's not a good combo.
No.
Yeah, so come and join us, Rockin' Pod Expo, August 6th through the 8th. Book your hotel. It's at the Hilton Airport Hotel, and you can go to rockinpodexpo.com. Yeah, so after you wake up after a good snore, go listen to Pot of Thunder, Growing Up Rock, Slamfest Podcast, Decibel Geek. Podcast Rock City, Cobras and Fire, Rock Strikes 10, Metal Up Your Podcast, The Dummy Room, History Science Theater, State of Amorica, Potter Than Hell, Podkiss, The Kiss Room, I Love It Loudcast, Ages of Rock, The Synaptic Empire, and don't forget about Monty, Galactic Cowboys Monty, bass player, amazing. Monty's Rockcast. Go check it out.
And also for those of you listening at home, you wish you could smell how good the firehouse smells right now.
Oh, yeah, crab cakes.
I made crab cakes for dinner.
He made crab cakes. Did he offer you some when you came in?
I must have missed all that.
I missed that, too. Well,
I came in with beer, and I got no offer of crab cakes.
That's how it works around here. It's all for me. All about me.
Well.
So, Robert, this is the first time we're not on opposition of each other.
No, we're
No combativeness.
No, we're all about the peace and love this year. We're turned over a new leaf because I suck so bad at this. We're just like,
Yeah,
we're just all about
we are not doing
harmony
a wild card.
and no more combat sports. Like,
And if you want to hear any of that, go to inobscuria.com. Like us, share us, recommend us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Leave us a review, either Podchaser or Apple Podcast. We would love to get one. All right. Okay. So usually when we have Jeremy here, we're going to do a wild card episode, or at least that's what we've done twice. Usually. I guess twice makes usually.
it is now.
Okay.
It's a thing. if you're going to do that right now, then yes, it's a
Okay,
thing.
great. We're not going to do that today.
Oh, okay.
No, we're going to do something different.
Ace of spades.
This is different. So I had this really freaky dream the other night, and I knew that's when I thought, oh, I got to ping Jeremy, get him on the phone. So I had this freaky dream after a night of binge watching Ink Masters. You ever watch Ink Masters?
Oh, yeah.
I love that show. Dave
great.
Navarro's on it, and there's like 13 seasons, and I just found it, so I now have
13
13 seasons to get through.
of people getting tattoos.
It's awesome. Yeah. So basically, these people sign up for this competition to get free tattoos, and a lot of times they don't really get to pick their artist, and they're going to get whatever they get.
The fights are great.
That's
You're
genius.
an idiot. You're
Yeah,
an idiot
that
if
is
you sign up for that.
so unbelievably stupid.
And they have to do it within a time frame and within
6 hours
a
usually.
structure of
so they're
competition.
rushing it. So in addition to not choosing it, it's a rushed tattoo.
And within the lines of a competition.
Yeah.
So it's like,
People
I
watching
want
you.
this for my tattoo. I'm going to have it on me for my entire life.
No, you
well,
can't
no,
get
I
that.
got to do it this style because that's what we're being judged on. I want to win $100,000. Well, I need this on my
like
body
we
forever.
need more evidence that people are idiots these days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's what you get for a free tattoo. But anyway, I've been watching a lot of this, and I had this really funky dream after falling asleep while it's on, probably, in episode 20 of, I don't know, season 3 or something like that. Yeah, basically all the way through. So I had this crazy dream, and I woke up, in my dream I woke up, okay, and I was tattooed full sleeves, and I was like, Grace is going to kill me. And
What'd you get, checkerboard?
no, it all had numbers all over me, and when I looked at it, the number, it was a combination. It was 060599, just repeating in various sizes and
The
different
zip
fonts
code?
and everything. Well, I don't know, so it took me a little bit to get it, and then I realized something.
It's a date.
It's a date.
Yes.
What could that be? 060599. So my birthday is the 7th. So if it's June 5th, 1999, that's not my birthday.
No.
But what went on?
We were warming up for your birthday by then. We usually
were.
would start a day or so early,
Yeah.
prime the pumps a little bit, limber up, and then get started on your birthday party.
So I figured out what that date was.
Was it Rock?
That was the Hard Rock Fest.
Rock Fest.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I
At
knew
the
right
Atlanta
away.
Motor Speedway.
At the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and I knew right
God,
away
what a
what
year
we're gonna
that
talk
was.
about.
That was a great year. One of my favorite years. Seriously.
It was so much fun.
We had so much fun.
And who's the band that opened the whole thing off and just blew us away?
Marvelous 3.
The Marvelous 3. So
Great band.
Yep.
Awesome. And
So-
live, too. Just even better live. Like good recordings. Butch Walker's got a great sense of musicality, but you get them on stage, holy shit.
I had
peels
no
the
idea
paint off the walls.
what we were about to witness, and
Yeah.
they just blew all the other bands off the stage
Yeah.
that day.
So we rented an RV, and like 8 of us, I don't know how many people we packed in this RV, drove it down to the Atlanta Motor Speedway, parked it and camped, and just raised hell the whole weekend.
Yep.
And we got, I don't know if we got our deposit back on that RV or not, because it got stuck in the mud, I think.
That's not the thing that we stuccoed, is it? Or-
No,
I'm sorry,
no.
Put the bond
No,
on.
that was the moving
Not
van.
stucco, Bondo.
Yeah, my friend Michelle, at the time, Michelle DeYoung, now
That was
Michelle Kelly, I don't know if she listens, but yeah, she ran a U-Haul into a tree.
That was the U-Haul.
And we
Okay.
spent all night patching the U-Haul so they couldn't tell because she didn't buy the insurance.
Right.
And we passed. We got the deposit back on that.
Yeah, a whole lot of Bondo,
Yes,
not stucco.
Yeah, it's Bondo. It's kind of the same thing. But yeah, that
creative.
That weekend it was in and out, just hot. We had one VIP pass. Do you remember that?
I do.
One for 8 people. And so we would rotate this VIP pass and we would take turns going into the VIP tent where they had really good food, they had a nice clean restroom, and then they would come out, we'd hand the pass to another friend, and we would just take turns was going in the VIP area. Of course, Eric and Jason would spend like 3 hours in there. Just assholes. Come on, man. Puff, puff, pass. Come on.
Yeah, so we'll go over a little bit more detail on that a little bit later. But the reason I thought to call Jeremy and to get him in here tonight was because we found out that there was just this amazing band called Marvelous 3, who I had only heard, I think, a single or two at that point in time. And it got me thinking, the other band that closed the night was Collective Soul. They're also, some consider from Atlanta. They're close.
And they put on a good show.
They're all right.
To give them credit. They put on a good time. Not nearly as good as the first band.
Right. So it got me thinking, there were so many good bands. When I first moved to Atlanta in 1996, there were so many good bands just playing the local scene. I mean, the rock scene was pretty amazing. And especially the heavy scene. And myself coming here really to start a band, or I thought I was going to be continuing my band, and only two of us ended up in Atlanta, and the other guy went to Chicago. Thanks, Eden. But, it was all about coming here. The only reason I came here was to get a day job that I could support myself and then play music at night. And the scene at that time was just amazing. It's kind of sad where we are now. But back then, late 90s, early 2000s, really good. That was the time that we were all playing in various bands together.
Don't forget about, we had 99X was
an
amazing radio station, was at its peak.
It was kind of brand new. I think it started
mid-90s, but it really reached its peak by late 90s.
Yeah, no, I'm saying when I moved here.
When you moved
here. Started. 96. 99X had just started, and they just started really ramping up and kind of taking over the town. The whole alternative scene was...
They broke Collective Soul and a lot of other...
They broke Marvelous 3.
Marvelous 3, too.
And we're going to talk about that. So anyway, I'm just thinking the other things that were happening during that time was the Atlantis Music Conference. I remember going to the very first one in 1998, and I was in a band. We were called Dabble. Now, this band never played live, but we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we start booking and everything? So I went to the Atlantis Music Conference with a pad and paper, and I was taking notes, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? But anyway.
I've never heard of this band.
That's cute.
Dabble.
Dabble? Yeah. You've never mentioned Dabble.
Yeah, it turned into Soul Speak eventually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a reason you never heard it. Yeah, so the local scene was pretty amazing, and I thought it would be cool to look up, because I was having such great thoughts of that time. I thought it'd be cool to look up who were the top rock bands from Atlanta. And there's a website called ranker.com where they rank everything. And I thought, I'll just type in top bands Atlanta. And here's what came up. Now, it was a list of 100. And I'm going to read you the rock bands that were on it. Okay. Call it rock. It could be.
What year?
It could be metal. This is just of all time. Top Atlanta bands from, top bands from Atlanta. So I'm going to read you a very short list. All the rest of the acts are either hip hop, R&B, or country.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that the time was so rich for rock bands, but here's what we're going to get into. So here's what they have. Black Crowes. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
Mastodon. Yep. Seven Dust. Collective Soul. We already talked about them. Stuck Mojo. Rich Ward.
Yep. Great.
Mother's Finest.
Oh, way back.
I didn't know they were from here.
That's the way back.
Oh, yeah.
Driving and Crying. Not really from here, but close, right?
Atlanta-ish.
Athens, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's REM, too.
Yeah, well, they didn't list REM.
Okay,
and
so
B-52s.
That's very Athens.
Yeah,
so they're saying
they
Atlanta proper.
Yeah. Manchester Orchestra, which is a newer band.
Yeah.
Nashville Pussy, which
They're not from Nashville?
I assumed they weren't from here, but...
Yeah, I didn't think they were from here.
Yeah, because that's Atlanta Pussy.
This is ranker.com. Let me just say that. Follow for Now, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Family Force 5.
Oh, yeah.
We played with them.
Played with them many times.
And that was basically it. They didn't even have like Atlanta Rhythm section and some of the older ones as well.
Yeah, they went back to Mother's Finest, but left off...
Yeah.
I can think of a couple they left off, yeah.
Yeah, and so here's my point. So thinking about Marvelous 3, expecting them to be on here, there are 3 major bands from this time frame, from the late 90s, early 2000s, bands that got major label deals and really should have been huge. And they weren't even on this list, so it really proves my point. Today we're going to talk about Episode 68, Grave Mistake, Atlanta bands that should have been huge. And the deciding factor here on the bands that I picked is they had to be on a major label, okay?
Yeah, because we could get off in the weeds and talk about
a lot of great bands that did indie releases, but I'm really talking about these bands should have been huge. They had the momentum behind them, and for whatever reason, we'll talk about some of those reasons, but it just didn't happen the way that I would have expected it. And the first band we're going to talk about today, and the reason that I had Jeremy make a phone call last night is a band that we all love called Injected.
Yes.
And they were an Atlanta band formed in the mid-90s, featuring Danny Grady on vocals and guitar, Jay Lemons, guitar and vocals, Steve Slavitsky on bass, and Chris, is it Waltall? Do you know Chris's last name? I think it's Waltall on drums.
We'll go with that.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. They got signed to Island Records. They released an independent release that I don't have. Do you have that by chance?
I honestly have a bunch of...
It's called Hammered and Enamored. It came out in 95.
Don't have that.
I've never seen it. I didn't know them then because I moved here in 96, and by the time I heard of Injected, I knew that they were getting signed, so I never saw them in the earlier days, but they got signed to Island Records in 2002. It's called Burn It Black. It's the first album that came out, and it's produced by none other than Mr. Butch Walker, who we were just talking about with Marvelous 3. I have a feeling he's going to come up again later in the episode. And this album went to 149 on the Billboard Top 200. Pretty decent. It was number 7 top heat seekers chart. Really nice. And had a top 20 single called Faithless. And that was on heavy MTV rotation.
Yeah. If you remember that summer, that song was played all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not even just here, just everywhere. It was played all the time.
Yep. It was also on the, there was an MTV reality show called WWE Tough Enough, and it was featured on that as well. And it was also featured on I guess they had a soundtrack that came out. So they had another top 40 single on this album with Bullet, and then we've actually played Burn It Black. We played that on one of our episodes, our 2000 episode. So if you go back to episode 30, you'll hear Injected as the first band we played on that episode as well. And, they had everything going for them. It was just momentum. They toured with Seven Dust, Incubus, Papa Roach, Nickelback, Jerry Cantrell. What more could you ask? What do you remember, Jeremy, of... Did you see Injected before they got signed? Tell us, because you know the guys, so I thought we could give a little perspective on kind of your timeline with them.
I didn't know the guys when it hit. I knew them afterwards when they were kind of on the downside of that, working on the second record.
Okay. And we'll get into that in a second.
So if we're going to get into that...
Yeah. Let's get into that in a second. Let's play something from the first album, because this should have been... And it was a meteor. The only thing that I think about after you hear it, we'll come back and talk more, but I don't still hear it. I would expect for people to still talk about this and still play it.
I listened to this album today with the 15-year-old boy. 15-year-old boy was like, this is great. What is this? These riffs are huge. They're chunky. The hooks are all over the place. I don't understand why this wasn't big. In an alternate universe, this would have been big and Nickelback wouldn't have been, because it was about the same time frame. And Danny was one of the best guitar players I've ever heard, especially in town. Had some of the best tone I can think of.
We talked about that.
Injected's tone was godlike.
Yeah, we did talk about that. It's funny about Atlanta bands, and we're going to hear from 3 of them today that all had great tone.
2 of my favorite tones probably of all time, my top 10, are from Atlanta. You have Injected, and you have Rich Ward.
Yeah. So let's play a song from the first Injected release called Burn It Black, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little more about what happened after this.
It's out of here, there's no other place. You're wondering how what you're here for, but every night you still walk out that door. You're just a screwed up kid, doesn't know who he is. Fights the words in his head, screams he's better off dead. Met a punk with a disc, wants to fight and now you're pissed. It's already too late, start off your hate. Why did you sell your soul for? Was it a gun and a bullet and a chance of revenge you got? From your boys on the block, across the bed that never ends. Why did you sink so low for? Was it the time and the space and the spit in your face? Thoughts on the cops in the court, sin you can't erase. He caught you looking his way, hands in the air, what the hell to say? I know something sad but true. That motherfucker was as scared as you. You shot a screw-up kid, doesn't know who he is. Fights the words in his head, screams he's better off dead. Man, a punk like you, what the fuck you gonna do but point the piece at his eyes? You never realized. Why did you sell your soul for? Was it a gun and a bullet and a chance of revenge? cards in the court, sin you can't erase. Sad, with a pistol in the sack, that pushes so hard, gonna push right back. Sad, to put up a fight, your life is just started, but it all is tonight. Some kid doesn't know who he is, lots of words in his head, screams he's better off dead than a punk like you. What the fuck you gonna do for the peace at his eyes? You never knew. Why did you sell your soul for? Was it a gun and a bullet and a chance or a round you got? Pops up your blood on the block, cross a path that never ends. Yeah, why did you sink so low for? Was it the time and the space and the spit in your face? Pops on the cops in the court, sin you can't erase.
I think I actually have, honest to goodness, lust for that guitar tone.
Right?
Fantastic.
It,
Yeah.
it makes you want to play. Like
Yeah,
there's certain
true. I'll
there's
walk
certain
right over there
songs
and pick
you can
up that
listen
guitar.
to, and like all of a sudden you're like, I just want to pick up a guitar
Yeah.
now.
If I could
It's-
get that tone, I would. I just suck at it. So
Top 10 favorite guitar tones for me.
Yeah,
It's
always.
lustful. I agree. And he is a very underrated guitar player. Danny has great feeling and not in his riffs, his playing, everything.
voice, that growl.
Fantastic.
God, he's got that gravelly growl to his voice. It's amazing.
And I think Danny wrote every single song. Some were co-written, but
Yeah.
he's on every single one.
Absolutely.
His stamp's all over this album and all over Injected, really. He's the main guy writing everything. And that was actually a single. That was Bullet, and that was a top 40 single in 2002. I don't really
That was
remember
2002?
2002.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't-
remember
I don't
that at all.
really remember hearing it.
I don't remember hitting anything on the radio besides Faithless. That was the only song. And I was talking again to the 15-year-old Caden that Faithless was all over the place for an entire summer, and then after that, Injected just kind of died.
Just goes away.
I don't remember a second single, third single, anything. I just remember that was all over the place. I think they even did an MTV tour that was sponsored by MTV with, maybe that was the Nickelback tour, I'm not sure, but they did an MTV tour. I don't remember Bullet, but that's a fantastic, thick, heavy, melodic, badass song.
And we brought up before when we were talking about them on the episode 30, we said it's like it sits in a perfect place between metal and alternative and just rock.
Hard rock.
Like it just
all of that
it just
together.
meets all the needs of
Yeah.
anybody who's into any of that kind of music.
Yeah, you would be okay if you're a metalhead, listen to that. If you're alternative, you'd be okay listening to that. So it just
Yeah.
fits all those niches.
And especially with Danny's voice,
Yeah.
because it's not too pretty. It's got some gruff and some balls
Not
behind
glam
it,
rock.
but it does have that melodic structure to it. And especially with Butch producing it, it has a lot of hook and a lot of good melodies and a lot of good
That's what Butch
production.
does.
He
Yeah,
does.
absolutely.
That's what he specializes in. We'll talk about that more later, but his name will keep coming up today. Yeah, so I'm going to mention again who they toured with. So if you think about time frame, right? 2002, they're on tour with Seven Dust, another great Atlanta band, Incubus, Papa Roach, Nickelback, Jerry Cantrell. All of these bands were at the top of their game.
But think about what else was going on in the rock world. You had your Limp Bizkits, your Linkin Parks, the rap metal.
Well, they're
angry
touring
rap
with
metal.
Papa Roach. They're
Well,
touring with Seven Dust. So
Yeah, but-
you can lump those. Incubus. They're
They
all
would have
lumped
fit in.
in there.
Yeah,
They would
this-
have fit in with Deftones as well.
Right, but still, you had a lot more of the DJ in the band. That kind of rock really kicking off right then that completely took over. New metal, all that took over.
Yeah.
Alternative, where Injected had a place in that world because at the time, 99X, the local radio station, they would have played all of that together.
Mm-hmm.
But you look fast forward 5 more years, they were not playing any of that. They were only playing
Yeah.
the rap metal, angry, I'm about to break type music, which is very formulaic, and Injected had no part of that,
Yeah,
just
so
like a lot of other
And also, this is a time when Nickelback broke.
horrible,
So you
horrible
had the
time.
very poppy puddle
And
of mud,
Creed.
puddle of mud kind of things that were a little toned down, a little more watered down, but
Yeah.
still had that little kind of bit of rock to it, but a little more hook to it.
That edginess went away.
Yeah, but
more.
these guys should have stolen every bit of what those bands got.
Oh, I agree.
They should have stolen all of it. I mean, you think about your Creed. You just mentioned it. Creed, was it
Puddle of
Nickelback,
Mud.
Puddle of Mud. I never can think of that one. Yeah, Puddle. Those three bands. This band should have
God, that dude's
stolen
the Puddle
that
of
throne.
Mud guy. He's been
you hear him
arrested
now?
Holy! Well, I haven't heard him, but I saw a website that had booking photos, and it was like booking photo number 1.
I think you're thinking of Creed.
No.
No, it's the
there was
Puddle
a
Monkey.
Is it
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
last I heard of him is his fantastic rendition of Nirvana.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible.
That was a big.
The best cover song ever.
If I can find it, I'll insert it here.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Bless his heart.
But he has been arrested like 5 times.
Yeah,
now. The guy's got
really
some
bad.
issues. He's got some issues.
Bless his heart.
This band should have really taken that throne, in my humble opinion here. But we were dealing at the local level, and Jeremy, you can tell us where you were, but at the local level in 2002, we were dealing with the same exact thing.
Yeah. Think about it.
Regionally local where we were, because we were in Big Jack Pneumatic at that point, and we were playing power pop.
Yeah. Hard rock, power pop with a keyboard.
With a keyboard, and we were the only bands that we could play with were, for the most part, new metal bands or new metal like bands at that time, because that's really what was happening. And that's who we had to play with.
My experience was a little different.
You were more on the punk side, though, right?
No, not in 2002, which is when this was hitting. I just got done with going to college, which I went for audio engineering. So I came back to Atlanta, which is where I was from, and started working in the studios. So I started at Nickel and Dime Studios, and from there I met Dave Engstrom, who was the studio manager, and he was in a band called Superfuzz, which they were from Kentucky, and they were really big in Kentucky and came to Atlanta, just as you did, to try and make it. Superfuzz at this point in time had a kind of buzz going around them. I was in a band called Devil May Care, which we had 3 of the same members as Superfuzz. So Dave was our lead guitar player. I was a rhythm guitar player. We had Chris Leathers, which is still one of the best drummers I've heard. He was the drummer for both Superfuzz and Devil May Care. And we had Jason Groves, who was the bass player. We played a lot with Injected about in this time. We played with them. We played with Drop Sonic a lot, which is another band I think that should have taken off. There was also Asphalt Blaster that had a lot of big buzz at that point in time, who had Johnny Colt, who most people you'll know, that is the Black Crowes bass player. That's when he wanted to be the front person. He wanted to be basically Chris Robinson at this point in time.
We actually played with Asphalt Blaster.
We did?
Mercy Beat.
Oh, Mercy Beat.
Played.
What?
The One Electric show that we played, Asphalt Blaster, was who we opened for.
So Mercy Beat was Kevin and mine
With Paul.
with another guy before we played with Big Jack Pneumatic.
Yeah.
So we played with Asphalt Blaster?
We did, yeah. We opened for them.
I recorded their first album,
9 Lives?
Was it 9 Lives?
which
Okay,
Ted
I
Lethang,
remember
the
that.
guitar player, ran.
Ran, yeah.
Yeah, which is why I loved 9 Lives, because when I recorded them, after that, I was very high up over there.
Was that the show that I had some fans show up to and it had a certain T-shirt that said, "You should see this wet"?
I think it was, yeah. Yeah. That's how you do a rock and roll show, Robert.
Yeah, exactly. That was a rock and roll show. I have fond memories of that show, yes.
Yeah. So fun that you don't remember who we played with.
No. Well, it's not fond memories of that,
Right.
but everything else
I'm just
after the
joking.
show, yes.
Yeah, so you mentioned you played with Injected during this time. So Jade actually left the band while they were touring. I'm not sure exactly what tour they were on, but Injected had to finish as a trio. When you played with them, were they a trio, or had they added the other guitarists at that point?
Both.
Okay.
We did play with them some when they were a trio, and then some when they got Matt Pruitt, who we all called Mustard. But they did get another guitar player. And kind of like you were saying, everybody in Atlanta thought that they were going to be the next huge band, and especially Superfuzz thought that we were going to be able to ride the coattails of them and get a label deal out of it. We had every major label come see Superfuzz, every label come see Devil May Care, come see Drop Sonic, all because of Injected. Mainly. They were kind of leading Atlanta at that point in time. So everyone's like, this is going to be the next thing. We're all going to get a label deal. It's all going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And
I remember running into Danny at the Dark Horse, which is now called 10 High, but back then it was called the Dark Horse. Ran into Danny. I met him there at the bar. We had a drink. He was, he's like, "'Cause you're the guy from Injected." He's like, "Yeah," and just great dude, and had a good chat. And I remember it was right around this time, and I said, "What are you guys doing next?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a long story." Like, he wouldn't go into it, but apparently, so they started a second album, and I believe, Jeremy, you can probably tell the story better, but my understanding is that A&R, so they're with Island, and A&R and everybody just got sacked, right? And they brought in a whole new team, and whenever that happens, whoever got signed by the old crew does not get treated well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's either the new crew doesn't like you, or or the new crew's not getting the same pay because they didn't discover you,
You're
or
not
whatever
their
it
band.
was.
You're not their band, so.
That's what happened. They recorded a second album. Island decided that they were going to be a tax write-off, and they were not going to allow it to be put out, and they withheld those songs for over a decade.
Now, if you go and read, this is interesting because I want to hear your kind of counterpoint here. If you go and read articles around this time, it wasn't like they dissolved because of what we're talking about. It was more that because Jade had left and they were left as a trio, that's why the band dissolved. But that's not the case.
No, not at all. If you remember when we, in the Swear, were at the rehearsal space, Injected had the main spot in the front. Everybody in the rehearsal space knew when Injected was playing because they were so loud that they shook the entire fucking rehearsal space. And it was awesome because of that. But
And who owned that rehearsal space? His name will come up again.
Johnny Colt.
Johnny Colt.
And Ted Lethang ran it.
He had the bankroll.
So Danny was there all the time. He was recording new songs all the time. And I would come over there and listen to some of the songs. I'd tell him, what I thought of it. I'm sure it wasn't a big opinion value, but I would go over there and we'd talk about them. And he'd keep saying like, yeah, I'm trying to write these songs and I'm trying to send it to Island and trying to get this record put out, trying to get something that they'll like. And I remember working in the studio and they would come in with even Butch. They got Butch to come back to do, it was 2 or 3 songs because they were trying to do demos to get the record out. So they did the record they didn't like. So they got Butch to come back to do 2 or 3 songs to try and entice it even more. And same thing, like they couldn't tickle the fancy of the A&R people, whatever it was, because some of these songs were fantastic. Better, if not on the same level as the first album. It just didn't happen.
It's baffling. So it's interesting that when you look up on the internet, what you find is nothing about this. What you find is that Jade left and they couldn't continue on as a trio. Not the case, okay?
No, they found another guitar player.
Exactly.
Like I said, it's Matt Pruitt.
But it's kind of that revisionist history.
That's a nice
not what
fluffy
happened.
story.
But so I don't know, do you know why I know that Island kind of held them up. They couldn't be Injected, but did they try to do something else, rename themselves, go on as...
Not as far as I remember. I kept up with Danny as long as they were in that front space, and eventually they left and Curtis came in.
Yeah.
And he took over that spot. But last I remember was Danny was just continuing writing, continuing recording, continuing giving it to Island to try and get another album. I know it was very hard on him and very hard on the band, which might have been why they eventually dispersed. It's because, everybody in the band had to get other jobs besides Danny.
Right. And so basically that's what happened is this second album never comes out in that time frame. And, there was a lot of rumor mill about what's going on. And finally in 2009, they returned for a 500 Songs for Kids, which is a benefit show that almost every artist who owns a guitar in the city of Atlanta plays. They have it every, May usually? Is that when that is? It's Smith's Old Bar, and they do it for kind of weeks on end. And basically you get assigned out of 500 songs, whatever the theme is, you get assigned a song as a band, and you go up there and you play that one song, and then you get off the stage, and they just rotate it out. And we've had the opportunity to play it several times.
Yeah, it's fun.
We played Mr. Roboto one time with Brandon from Blackberry Smoke.
God.
That was my favorite time we ever played it. I wore a robot mask, and I wore Otis from House of a Thousand Corpses garb.
Yes, that was interesting. And that may have been the same year. So in 2009, Injected gets back together. They play a Cheap Trick song. So they play I Want You to Want Me. First time they had been back together with everybody. But, it wasn't to last. And then they kind of went dark again. And unfortunately, Jade passed away in 2016. So unfortunately, we'll never see that band with him again. But Danny did finally get the rights to the second album.
Yeah.
And a year after Jade passed away in 2017, Injected finally released the second album, The Truth About You. And I'm going to play a song called Death Ray, and then we'll come back and kind of talk about it.
Fantastic.
straight to the wall. Drag my fist on the open road, eyes on the fire, I can't let it go. Broke my wrist and I broke my home. Crossing it first, I was standing alone. When I find you as restless as I am, got no answers, got no plan. So to finish what I began, faster than you, one more. Keep my foot down to the floor. Say it doesn't matter, I'll be going faster. I'll take you straight to the wall. Ride my temporary headlong straight away. So I'll burn out and just fade away. Know what I want, and I'm here to stay. When I find you as restless as I am, got no answers, got no plan. Said to finish what I began. Faster than you, one more. Keep my foot down to the floor. Say it doesn't matter, I'll be going faster. I'll take you straight to the wall. 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 I'll take you straight to.
That's quite a contrast from. It's good, but it's
So good.
It's very different from the first one because the first one was very ballsy, just straight ahead rock, kicking in the nuts rock. This is more thought provoking. I'm talking about the music itself, just with the intro, the kind of the proggy time signature
Is a little more proggy. Yeah,
and then
a little more.
the outro, just mellowish towards the end there, even though it's still rocking. So it had some very different qualities that you said this was written in 2000 and
So
This is
roughly
probably about 2002.
I was going to say, I don't know if
Wrote
this...
it roughly 2002.
So it came out in 2017. I don't know, and maybe, Jeremy, you do, but I don't know if this was the stuff that they started recording.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or is this the stuff that he refined along the way until that time?
I don't remember exact every song that I remember them playing at this point in time, but this sounds like what Danny was working on. This sounds like what I remember them playing live. They played a lot. When we did shows with them, they were working on the new songs.
Right.
They didn't play Faithless. They didn't play Black and Black. They didn't play any of that stuff. It was like all new stuff. They had these places packed out, pumping out new material, working it and see if it worked for everybody. This is kind of the stuff that I remember them playing. Just huge feeling, big balls, more complex rhythms, but very melodic, very rhythm based. Had more of a pocket than that first album to me did. And that solo, it made you do the stanky face. That was just so good.
Now,
That's a lot of feeling.
Do we know if Matt was on this or not?
I don't know if he was on the recording.
Right.
Do know that he was playing live at some point. They were playing 3-piece for a while in those early 2000s, and then he joined them.
I have a suspicion this is a lot of Danny.
That solo
all
definitely was Danny.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think Matt played on some of the record, but I don't think all of the record, because I think they, like you were saying, throughout the years, they continued recording and continued refining it.
Right.
And I'm sure he made it onto it, but that feel is all Danny. He's one of the best guitar players I've seen play live.
He's, again, whenever I hear Injected, it just makes me want to pick up a Les Paul. I don't know what it is, but I just want to pick up guitar when I hear it. And it's kind of timeless to me, because I could see this was released in 2017. We know it was recorded much earlier, but it sounds now to me. It doesn't sound like
it does not sound
retro or dated, or it's just
Faithless,
good balls
Faithless,
in the wall.
I mean, it was. I knew it back then. This song I didn't know back then, so it's easier to say it sounds more modern. But if you played them back to back, once again, Faithless and a couple others, very 90s. But this one, not so much. Like you said, it's kind of timeless.
Yeah. I wish, I know it came out in 2017. I don't really know. I couldn't find anything that I was searching on how it actually did. I'm assuming it just kind of came out, and the people that knew about it thought it was great. And people that didn't.
It was a very limited release. Yeah. I missed it.
It was on vinyl, too.
Yeah, it was on vinyl. It was on like a clearish green vinyl. I even mentioned it last night, hoping that he says, I have one or two left.
So you called Danny last night. Let's just talk about this. So what was your conversation like with Danny?
Well, it was actually a text. I didn't call him.
Okay.
It was text message, and I was just kind of like, is this still Danny's number? After a while, I didn't hear anything back. I was like, okay, well, if it is Danny's number, I'm just trying to get clearance for something because we want to do a podcast, and just hit me back. And he's like, hey, Jeremy, what's up? Yeah, I haven't talked to you in a while. And it went from there. And then we talked for, 2 hours.
Awesome. And so what I was having Jeremy make sure is, a few years ago, I think it was when we were in Austin, you had your laptop with you. So we went to South by Southwest with the Swear, and Jeremy and I were rooming in a room, while we were there. And I remember you were listening to stuff on your laptop, and I said, what is that? And you're like, oh, this is Injected stuff that no one's ever heard. I'm like, oh. So, rock and roll boner.
Yeah, the inside scoop.
So I had Jeremy reach out to Danny and say, hey, can we play something that was never released? Is that cool?
And it took a while to get the yes, but I figured it was going that way. But he pretty much cleared a couple of songs that we were thinking about. Yeah, I've talked about good times, talked about old times, talked about some interesting times that I did not know happened.
Yeah, let's hear the mic drop that he gave you.
So apparently, we didn't go into the story. He just kept saying it's a strange story, which I don't know why I didn't probe into it, but I didn't probe into it. But apparently, I guess Injected was looking for another singer at one point in time, because to me, that's bewildering, because I think Danny Grady is a fantastic singer. I think it fits the music. And honestly, even though I know who it is and I'm about to tell you guys who it is, I can't see Injected without Danny singing, personally.
Well, see, when you told me, go ahead and drop who it is, and then we'll talk about, I think it could work with both of them doing harmonies, but go ahead.
Okay, so he told me that he didn't know whether I had this disc or not, because he gave me a bunch of stuff, and he was, I guess, surprised that I didn't have it. But Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots fame, Velvet Revolver fame, basically legendary vocalist fame, recorded tracks with Injected.
And did he say time frame? Did he give you any?
He did not. He just said that he lost the disc.
He lost
What?
the disc. So here's the mic drop. He's like, "Oh yeah, we recorded with Scott Weiland, but I lost the disc. I don't have it."
So he lost the disc.
There's 2 episodes in a row. Last week it was the band that lost the laptop, or the laptop got stolen with
Esprit
a
d'Air. Yes, they lost their whole second album. Yes, please go forward.
people.
Yeah, he
What
told me
the
that he
hell?
lost the disc. He gave it to Matt Pruitt, Mustard, who, unfortunately, I tried reaching out to anybody I knew that had his contact information, which was about 5 people. Nobody has it for the simple fact that Mustard went off the grid to go search for Sasquatch. Not lying.
For real.
I
For real.
remember this happening. It was just years ago at this point in time.
The
but
Sasquatch.
the Sasquatch, he went to Washington to go search for Bigfoot.
Instead, he found a big orange guy with crazy hair. Oh wait, no.
Instead,
Sasquatch.
he still has the disc of Scott Weiland with Injected on some of these songs that we probably are listening to now, or on that second record, without Danny having a copy, without me having a copy, and I don't know who else to try and contact, but I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Even though I think that Danny will probably sound better, but I'm interested.
So if you out there happen to go to, I don't know, a secondhand store and pick up some used CDs before said gentleman went on his Sasquatch hunt, please reach out to us because we want to hear this.
Mustard, if you're out there and you are listening to us,
Call us. Here's Jeremy's.
Let us hear the
Here's
Scott
Jeremy's
Weiland
number.
demos.
404
I mean, there are people that I'm sure there are a lot of people that would just in the STP world and people that are infatuated with Scott Weiland,
I'm sure.
all things Scott Weiland, that would just salivate over the fact that there's something they haven't heard that's out there
I'm
with
sure.
another band.
Yeah, I can't picture Injected with another singer unless
Well, so
it was Scott Weiland. Then I'm like,
think of
okay.
Scott Weiland and Danny harmonizing.
Yeah.
It'd be like an Alice in Chains, Lane,
It'd be
Jerry
great.
thing. Oh my god!
I
it'd be
didn't say it
killer.
wouldn't be great. I just hear Danny. That sounds like Injected to me. I'm very open to hearing Scott Weiland, as in I made 5 reach outs that I haven't done for a while. Just trying.
Wow. Yeah, so we got clearance. We're going to play a song, and the one that we're going to play is the one that Jeremy said to me. You said, this is the one that everybody heard and thought, on the second album, this is going to be the big single. This is going to be the thing that breaks them again and gets them even bigger and huge, right?
To me, from my memory, this was one of the songs that Butch came back and did. Whether I'm wrong or not, I don't know. But from what I remember, this is one of the songs that Butch came back and did, trying to make another single for Island. Working at the studio, I was not part of the session, but of course it was done at the studio, so we heard it. The people at the studio all thought this is the best song that they had done for the new record.
And this was Nickel and Dime? Studio?
This was Nickel and Dime.
Okay, and Butch
which
was,
later
Butch
turned.
was there, right?
He would come in and he would do some sessions. He did some Bowling for Soup stuff there that everybody knows. He got awards for and stuff. And he ended up buying, and that was Ruby Red.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about that soon, I'm sure. But let's play this song. This is called Westworld.
This is called Westworld,
And we sent it to me last night. I'd never heard it until last night, and I'm excited to play it again.
It was all I had left, was to follow the sunset. Turn my head towards points west, find some peace and some rest. Left a note by the door, so many runaways before. Second back about a week or so, that was 5 years ago. Let it go, I'm begging you. I just can't face you. Well, we find a space where you won't hurt no more. She came from the West Coast, more screwed up than most. China white was sweeter, black tar is cheaper. Well, it's almost morning, are you sleeping, darling? With your back to the sunset, trying to outrun regret.
You heard it here first, an
Wow.
exclusive. Westworld by Injected.
Okay.
God, and that should have been heard in 2004.
I was about to say, I want to know what you guys think of that. I've known about this for almost 20 years now. This is as raw as it can get, guys. This is not mixed. This is not mastered. This is a rough mix
Which
of a
still sounds
track.
better
This is slightly above a demo, right?
This is slightly above a demo. This is these guys going in there playing as rough as it can be, and they're that good. And to me, this song is one of my favorite songs that they ever did. It's fantastic. I don't know why they didn't get more out of this. You could have thrown maybe some harmonies on there and made it even more catchy, but I don't know. It's a great song.
Well, earlier we were talking about how their first album didn't have the same sound as a lot of other bands a few years later in the early 2000s with all the rap metal stuff. But one band you mentioned was Incubus. That was their peer around the same time. That sounded like Incubus. That was right in the same wheelhouse, which means that song with a tiny bit of polishing could have been that really good melodic antithesis to all the rap metal, because Incubus was not rap metal. They were very melodic in their songs.
They got lumped in there,
But
and
they got
they
lumped
had
in
a
there.
DJ.
Yeah, they had a DJ, but they were not that angry rap metal. But
I agree.
There was room for Injected in there.
I tell you what, I saw
agree.
Incubus a year just before the pandemic, I guess in December before the pandemic, so was that a year and a half ago? Man, that band was still good.
Still good?
It was so good. But yeah, there's no reason that this band, that song alone, that somebody at Island had their head up their ass if they didn't hear this and go, okay, there's something we can do with this.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you could overlook something that could potentially, just from a business perspective, could make you a ton of cash, I don't get that.
I don't get it, especially if you think about not only how good the song is, not how good the writing is, not how good the playing is, not how good everything about the song is. You also have Butch Walker involved in this. I believe he was involved. I'm pretty positive, but you have Butch.
He was on a pretty big pedestal at this
He's a
time.
very big pedestal, and he gets even bigger. I'm pretty sure he won a Grammy for a song he wrote, but he's had a couple number one hits.
Avril Lavigne.
Yes, Avril Lavigne.
Who not only
Lavigne, sorry.
took his songs, but took his style. But SR-71, Bowling for Soup. I mean,
Yeah.
you have many bands that got hits off things he wrote. And this is a guy who's producing this band and putting his stamp behind it. And not only that, but it's quality stuff.
Yeah.
They can play, they can sing, they write hooks, they have balls. Just like you said, metal guys can get into it. Punkish guys can get into it. Frat guys can get into it.
Exactly.
It's got that
Yeah.
kind of middle ground to it. Injected is just
It's crossover.
great.
Yeah, it's crossover rock. It's what they called alternative rock, which was, that new phrase at that time, because it wasn't just alternative. No, it's alternative rock. So it can span over these. At that time, it was about radio still, and it was about actual physical album CD sales at that time. So it was about, can you cross over into a classic rock platform? Can we play some new stuff? Because they're starting to play some, by that point, grunge is old. So they're starting to play some Pearl Jam and stuff like that on classic rock stations that traditionally didn't play that. And you can play it on the X stations, the alternative stations. So they created that alternative rock where you had your Hoobastanks, your Nickelbacks, your all those bands that were around at this same time. And this band should have kicked all of their asses.
I agree.
And they didn't.
I think you could do a whole episode. We're kind of going along that lines. We're doing 3 songs. I don't think there's any more, but you could do a whole episode on this band. There's 3 or 4 hits on the first album. 3 or 4 hits on that first album. I mean,
and they did have some minor hits on it. It just, for whatever reason, this is one of the bands that I would put in the category of lost.
yeah, the second album has
They're
good
not
stuff.
only should have been, they're not, they should have been huge, but what they did put out and what did get them some notoriety has just been lost.
They don't get a
hear it.
lot of nostalgia plays on.
No, you don't hear this come up on Pandora when
No.
Yeah,
the
Pandora.
algorithm doesn't pick this up.
And there's alternative rock stations that specialize in retro alternative now. When you came in, I was just listening to one of those stations on Sirius XM. So yeah, they don't get any rotation for any of the old stuff.
It's just bad timing.
Oh, and-
Unfortunately, it's bad timing.
Like I said, I'm
Your
one of the
A&R
few people
team got
that-
fired. A new A&R team got in. You're not their band. Fuck you.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty
that's kind of what it was.
We'll hear that a lot in the three bands that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to move to a second one who came out just before. Did you want to say something, Robert? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, actually, I actually was going to ask. So, what's Danny up to these days?
Being a dad.
Being a dad. That takes a lot of work.
It's awesome.
We know that's a lot of fun.
He was like, I think, if I remember correctly, living in Tucker, being a dad.
Okay.
That's cool.
I love hearing success stories, but it really makes me damn depressed hearing this story and other stories like that. That I can imagine the guys in the band that you're right at the edge of stardom, and then you've got to go get a job.
You got a taste. Yeah, I mean they got a real taste.
Real taste. Touring, big tours, people schmoozing them. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
Then
people telling them how great they are at
all day long.
Big masses of people in rooms looking at
then
them.
You got to go back and pay the bills because the money's gone, and so you're like, oh, what do I do now? So that was what I was trying to think out loud was, what's he up to? Hey, he's got a family. That's cool. There are a lot of us out there that don't have that. So it's a full-time job avoiding being a dad in my world, but at the same time,
I've often thought, not that we ever got with either band that I was in with either of you, not that I ever thought that it was going to be a full-time gig, but I did feel like at one point with the swear especially, not to mention the Big Jack Canadian deal that we almost got with
love
Warner.
you in Canada.
But the with the swear, we got almost close to where people were interested.
Hey, we got a benefactor that was paying.
We did. We got somebody paying the bills,
and he wanted to pay for us to sit and do nothing but songwrite.
Yeah. He was going to put us on salary at one point. So I can only imagine what it feels like to get over even that hump to where you're like,
signed.
Okay, I don't have to go to work a job.
Yeah.
This is what I do, and
coming back from that would be the hardest thing. Like I said, I never got close to that, so I never had a problem. When I retired, I was like, all right, that was fun. But if I would have gotten a taste of it and then had to throttle back, that would have sucked.
To do music for a passion is one thing. To do music and truly pay your bills is another thing. But to do it at this level, the level that they got that taste for, and then to have it pulled away, that would just
all because of some politics and some stupid company somewhere.
Well, let's talk about a second band now. This is another Atlanta band, and they were around the same time, but they got their first album out before Injected. And the band I'm talking about is a band that was originally called MK Ultra, and they used to play all the time in the 90s. Do you remember MK Ultra, Jeremy? Or was that before your time?
That was before my time. I think I was probably in Florida at that point in time going through school.
Okay, well,
he's a youngin'.
MK Ultra eventually renamed themselves doubleDrive, and this is another amazing band from Atlanta that, again, they came out right at that time where there were all these other bands with not the same but similar sound that got bigger than doubleDrive. And doubleDrive, they had 2 releases on major labels, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out again. We'll talk about it more, but it's Donnie Hamby on vocals, Troy McLaurin on guitars, Joshua Sattler on bass, and our good friend Mike Froge on drums. So we'll tell a little story about Froge later, but Froge. Okay. We played all the same joints that this band did. And so I just think back to, again, when I first moved to Atlanta, this was one of those bands that I heard of, and they would pack out these places. I'm talking about bars like the Dark Horse Tavern, Smith's Old Bar.
Nine Lives?
Nine Lives wasn't around then. But they did play The Point.
The Point, it was next door. Or 2 doors down.
And then Masquerade, obviously, because doubleDrive were a little bit heavier, and then they would pack out.
Was it Cotton Club still over on Peachtree then?
Cotton Club was the original location.
Yeah, the first location.
Yep.
From what I would remember, doubleDrive was more of an event. It wasn't like Injected and Super Fuzz and Drop Sonic and whatever else was going on at that point in time. They didn't play Nine Lives and things like that. They played bigger.
Yeah, they did. They played Dark Horse. I remember they played Smith's. But they would, every time they'd sell them out. I mean, doubleDrive was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a bigger thing.
And Nine Lives wasn't that big of a joint.
No, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that place.
Yeah, so doubleDrive signed with MCA in 1999. So they were another one of those Atlanta's darlings, as far as a band that was in the circuit, and all of a sudden they got some notice and got signed. And so everybody was cheering for them to do well. And it's kind of interesting. They get signed to MCA, and I don't remember this happening, but it obviously did. Their first album was self-produced. with the exception of 2 tracks, which were co-produced by our good buddy Jeff Tomei.
Yes.
Funny side story there is we being Jeremy and I, when we were in the band called The Swear, which I guess officially I'm still in The Swear.
Yeah.
But when Jeremy was in The Swear with us, we went in to record I guess it was our first true LP, not an EP. But we went in with Jeff Tomei at Cock of the Walk Studios, which is Jesse James Dupree's studios up in Kennesaw. And we did not have a drummer at that point. And we had Mr. Mike Froge from doubleDrive play on 3 songs that we recorded.
We did. And I had said Danny Grady's one of his amps.
That's right.
To help record.
Was that the Mesa?
No. He's Bogner. He was endorsed by Bogner.
Okay.
So it was one of like 2, I think at least 2, if not 3 sessions that I borrowed one of Danny Grady's Bogners.
Nice. So it all comes together. But that was, 10 years after doubleDrive had been signed with MCA. And so to continue their story, so they get signed to MCA. Their first album is self-produced, with the exception again of Jeff Tomei on a couple of tracks, which I thought was pretty interesting for a band who's brand new and just signed to MCA. But maybe it was one of those deals where they already had done all the work and MCA was more of a distribution. I don't know this, but they did have a number 17 on the Billboard Active Rock chart. They had the song Tattooed Bruise from their first album in 1999. It was big, and the buzz at the time, again, I was fairly new to Atlanta, but the buzz at the time was this was just another one of these bands. We had Seven Dust and some of these other bands that had kind of gone to a different level, and doubleDrive was one of them.
Yeah, from all I remember, it was doubleDrive was, like you just said, on another level.
We saw them as more of like, not old school, but they were more peers with the Seven Dust and the Stuck Mojos and those bands who had come just several years before us in the scene at that time. But this is when they hit, and they did have co-writes on the album with the Lowry brothers, which Corey Lowry co-wrote a song. He was in Stuck Mojo, and he's now in Seether as Seether's guitarist. He helped co-write a song, and then Clint Lowry, who is his brother, who is in Seven Dust, also co-wrote a song, and then their third brother, Dustin Lowry, also co-wrote a song. So I guess the Lowry
family there.
The Lowry brothers were just friends with doubleDrive. I guess we'd have to ask Mike about that. But I did get some comments from Mike, and this is what he said about the first album. They toured and then toured some more. They played festivals, they played clubs, they played theaters, and opening slots for some really cool tours. End of story. Short and sweet. So let's hear some doubleDrive from their very first album. It's called 1,000 Yard Stare. Again, that came out on MCA in 1999. This is a song called Sacrifice that Mr. Jeff Tomei co-produced.
I got you covered around the world. Another hit, 365 and more. Steadily it moves under the headlight, the big bright shiny eye. But it makes no sense. What is there to say? 'Cause of all the pain inside, I will come to you. I never thought that you would be like I do. No! Get on! But it makes no sense. I keep throwing off
What'd you think?
The first thing I think is you can tell it's a little earlier than Injected.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's a lot hookier and commercially viable than a lot of the things that were going on at that point in time. Because you got to think this is the late 90s. It has that kind of aggro feel with the, they didn't really rap, but he had that kind of rappish. Yeah, almost on the verge of it, but more melodic. I think they should have been weird because we're on this podcast, but it should have been a little bigger than it was considering what got big. I mean, yeah, it's good. I liked it. I think it should have been bigger in that time period because late 90s, that was what it was.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, that guitar sound, along with Injected, Marvelous 3, that 98, 99 period, mainly a lot of 99, 2000, was the time when I was putting down the acoustic guitar and picking up the electric guitar. Because up until then, I've been playing acoustic, just started writing acoustic, met Kevin, I'm pointing. For those who can't see me pointing, met Kevin in 98. And so for me, all of that really heavy, hard rock before it went into the other stuff was that building block that made me, like I said, put down the acoustic and pick up electric. I want to play that. Even though I wasn't as good as those guys, I wanted to rock out. And we did. And it was that transition period from acoustic pop to heavy pop for me that was really important and kind of my journey. But all those bands that Kevin and I would listen to, you would drag me to see shows that I'd never heard of. You still do, but nothing changes.
Not now.
Well, you will.
I don't drag you anywhere now.
Drag you anywhere, yeah. So all that, that is the soundtrack of what you and I were listening to at the time that was inspiring us to go bigger.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, go ahead.
It kind of sounds like Atlanta to me because Atlanta, we have this undertone of trying to be a rock heavy scene, but we have a very vibrant hip hop scene. So he didn't go full on hip hop, but he had that little undertone of it.
Yeah.
So we had that good big rock tone in that. We had that underlying nature of a hip hop thing. So I think that a lot of Atlanta has that. Seven Dust is a big example of that. Seven Dust hit, and this is the same time that they have that their breakout. Their first two albums had at least three, if not four, big singles that had that. So they had that big, vibrant rock tone, but they had that kind of R&B-ish, hip-hop-ish,
they were
melodic tone to it.
New metal enough that they could ride on that train.
Exactly.
Right?
Which was a little bit more than DoubleDrive.
Yeah, totally.
A little bit more.
A little bit. But, that's exactly what I was going to say is DoubleDrive to me are the next logical step from Stuck Mojo and Seven Dust who got some fame, Seven Dust especially, just blew up. And here comes DoubleDrive, and they're not exactly the same, but again, they're writing with the guys from Seven Dust, so it is in the same vein. And they were, we were talking earlier about Injected, they were played on 99X. It was a little different for DoubleDrive. So we had a rock station in Atlanta, and in the 90s and early 2000s, the rock stations in Atlanta were really, really good about supporting local bands. I mean, just, shows dedicated to it on certain nights, always just very supportive. It's not anything that exists anymore in today's world or that existed after this time period, really. And DoubleDrive was on 96 Rock. They were the 96 Rock band. You had Marvelous 3 and some of the other Atlanta bands on 99X, but DoubleDrive was always seen as a heavier thing, a more, I don't want to say it to sound bad, but they were more blue-collar rock than, say, your alternative stuff.
There's nothing wrong with blue-collar.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. I'm just saying, but not to put them in a group, but they were, they were the common man's rock, and that's what was being played back then was stuff that was a little bit on the edge of the new metal scene because that's what was huge. So yeah, so they go out, they just tour a ton on that. So that comes out in 99, and I'm not really sure what happened, but they began in 2001 after they'd been out on the road for a couple of years. They started recording the second album, and they have producer John Kurzweg. I hope I'm saying his name right, but he's the guy that was responsible for Creed and Puddle of Mud and Godsmack and all the bands that had at that time really big hits.
Smacking for a couple of those.
Yeah. That's, to me, why I've stated in this episode why I don't think Injected made it.
Mm-hmm. So these guys are in the studio with him and recording it, and something goes on. They split with MCA before it was even finished, and they go off and have to find somebody new to pick them up and to finish this album, and they end up with Roadrunner. So they basically re-enter the studio in 2002 with Michael Barbiero. Am I saying his name right?
You Could be. I could be wrong. I always thought it's Barbiero.
Okay. We're going to say Barbiero. That's what we're going to go with. And if
All
we're
in
saying it
favor?
wrong,
Aye. All
sorry.
opposed? Nay.
So if you don't know who he is, he mixed Appetite for Destruction, okay? He produced Cinderella, Tesla, Scorpions, Alice Cooper, Three Doors Down, Thrice, Anthrax. Guy has a lot under his belt, and so he ends up with the second doubleDrive album to finish up the work that John Kerswick had started. So they both get production credit on the album that finally comes out, which is called Blue in the Face, and it comes out in 2003. You know, it peaked at number 43 on the top heat seekers. Here again is another band that has the major label, has some success, yet here we are in 2021, and I don't hear doubleDrive come up on any of my streams.
Nope.
No,
You know?
this is my introduction to them. Just being in the scene, getting it kind of thrown in my lap. Nowhere on MTV, nowhere on
Not at all.
the radio, nowhere anywhere.
They had a hit. They had a hit single on this called Imprint was the name of the single. It was number 22 on the hot mainstream rock tracks. But what happens is it comes out in 2003. The band also splits in 2003. And I did not reach out to Mike Froge, even though we are friends with him. I didn't reach out to him to find out the scoop on that. But for whatever reason, they ended the band in 2003. And we got 2 albums from doubleDrive. Both of them were excellent. Given the time that they came out and what the content, the material that's on it, there's no reason this band shouldn't have been huge.
As far as I remember, it was just that they were dropped, and that was kind of it. That was the final straw.
Yeah, I do remember him saying something about, and this comes into a lot of these bands that should have been bigger.
Yeah.
Is it comes back to the music business.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
music is awesome. It's great when you have passion. You can write great songs and put them out there. But in the end, it's a business. And just like with any business, it comes down to who you know and who they know.
And who your boss ends up being.
And yeah,
you don't have
exactly.
control over that sometimes.
And sometimes just luck of the draw. And business gets in the way sometimes of really great art, and that's what happened here. So they did end up reuniting in 2018. I thought this was cool. I did not go. Did you go see the?
I did not.
Yeah, I didn't see the reunion shows. I wish I had. I'm so dumb. So this happens to me all the time. Like something local will happen, and I just because it's local, I'll think, oh, I'll catch the next one. Well, it's stupid. They reunited for 2 shows. I knew it was 2 shows, and I just thought, oh, I'll catch the next one. Well, there is no next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's happened a few times as far as local bands. Carvis Driver, I was lucky to be a part of that one. I don't know if you know that one, but kind of same thing. It was a big Atlanta band. Had a reunion years later. They did a one-off. I'm not sure if doubleDrive only was a one-off, but...
Well, so they booked 2 shows at the 10 High in 2018. Sold them both out. Again, stupid me didn't go. And guess who opened?
High.
Guess who opened?
Injected, probably.
Injected.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, Injected reunited as well.
10 High. That's a small place for
200,
doubleDrive.
200, 150 people. How many people fits
I think it's more than that, but I wouldn't think any more than 400, maybe.
in that little space?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe 300.
3.
Yeah.
I was thinking more 3, but...
And those were the nastiest bathrooms. Good
Love
God
that
almighty.
place. Though. We all cut our teeth in that room,
We
though,
did.
man.
We did.
That was our stomping ground. That was
Yeah.
the Swears place.
the only
was.
stage with
It was
a
Big Jack's
pole
place, too.
in the middle of the stage that you could turn around and whack the neck of your guitar into the steel pole in the middle of the show. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, that stage has changed a lot since those days. They got smart and re-engineered it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, thinking about the good old days. Well, let's think about Blue in the Face, 2003. This is doubleDrive. This is the very first song. I love this track. It's called 11:59.
that was the drummer walking all the way down the hall, going into the guitar room, unplugging the amps.
Well,
enough, dude. We're paying by the hour.
You know,
Come
Mike
on.
did have his own studio.
And I have to say, with extreme prejudice, that is a fantastic drummer.
Oh
Damn.
my God, what a good drummer. I was so excited to get to work with him, to record with him. Man has some of the biggest drums I've ever seen. I mean, what was that
And
ride cymbal he
hits
had?
the crap out of him.
He does. He hits the shit out of the drums.
Man has some time, has some drums, and hits the crap out of him.
And he's
great drummer.
He's played with tons of folks. I remember at one point he was with Black Label, wasn't he? He was out on the road with Black Label for a while. Just, God, he's an amazing drummer. I met Mike when he was at our practice space when the Swear had the space that Johnny Colt owned. He had a studio. He built a studio in the rehearsal space called Open Sky Studios. It was nice.
Initially was after Nickel and Dime, after Butch Walker bought Nickel and Dime and it turned into Ruby Red, Nickel and Dime moved into that space.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that was Nickel and Dime for a long time.
And then Mike got it.
Okay.
And he called it Open Sky Studios.
Yes.
And he had a band called Open Sky Separators, who I can't remember if we played with them. I think we did. I think we played one show with them.
At I'm not even trying to remember that little punk rock club that was
in Marietta.
That was off of like MOK or something like that.
Okay, no memory of that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So, Robert, your thoughts on Blue in the Face 2003?
God, that
doubleDrive?
voice, I'm so envious of that voice. Just soulful, just gets the point across, and sounds like a lot of the contemporary bands, once again, not
of that time.
Yeah, and I'm completely blanking. What is the name of the band? Sometimes Goodbye is a Second Chance. The big pop rock song.
Tony Bennett.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
Tony Bennett.
Goodbye is a
Yes.
Second Chance. It's one of those bands that the dime a dozen
I
bands.
don't know,
that
Three Doors Down or something like that.
Something. Yeah, it wasn't them. I know their songs, but it's one of them just blends in. But anyway, he's got a good voice that is as good as the bands that you know by name.
Just outside of what they call yarling.
Yes.
He was just outside. He had just enough in it, but he could pull back.
This is my third time. We all know I'm more of a punk rock guy.
I can see the tats.
The tats, whatever.
He's an ink master.
Hence why I knew that show. This band, I knew them. I was friends with them. I did not listen to them near as much, which is why I missed the first Injected. As you can tell, I was a lot more into that.
Right.
Like, I like in doubleDrive, but it wasn't my thing. This is very much that late 90s pop rockish kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think they should have been way bigger than they were, because it's a lot better than some of the stuff that was.
A lot better.
It's just...
Yeah, no, I hear you. I know what you're saying. I mean, you were in a different place at this time when this music was coming out. This band was aligned with really kind of new metal, kind of that alternative rock thing that was hitting.
Everybody was a fantastic musician.
Just great band, though. God, they were so good, and I just never understood, especially being, where they were with their albums, why they didn't get picked up and go further.
No, and we all thought that they were on the next level, and it was untouchable kind of thing. Like, they're good. We don't need to worry about them. They're good. They're on that major label. They're on their second album. They're about to do their third album. That didn't happen. But
didn't happen. Yep, that was it. So, just one final note on the Mike Froge thing. So, I mentioned that we were at our rehearsal space for the Swear was the same place where Mike Froge had his studio. And at one point, we always had in the Swear, we had issues with drummers. So we would not have drummers for very long. It's that old Spinal Tap thing.
Yes.
They spontaneously combust.
Boom.
And this is a real thing. It happens. Drummers
and
just disappear.
When they combust, it smells pretty bad.
They just disappear, and then you have to get somebody else in. At one point, we had a kid in, and I cannot remember his name, but we had given him a nickname of Jellybean.
Oh, God. I thought you were going to go with Bama.
No, I'm talking about Jellybean.
I don't remember Jellybean's name.
Okay, I don't either. But we called him Jellybean because he came in with these translucent drums, and they were all different colors.
Yeah.
And so we thought they looked like jelly beans. So we nicknamed him Jellybean. We always had nicknames for the drummers because we knew we didn't have to learn their names because they wouldn't be there long. They wouldn't be there long enough. You just had to know what he looked like.
He played one show?
One show.
Yeah.
But
at the Tin High.
At the Tin High. And prior to that show, we were walking. I think we went to get, a Coke or something, and we were coming back to our room, and who's walking down the hall but Mike Froge? Hey, Mike, what's up? And this kid lost his shit.
Really?
"You're Mike Brosh," and he apparently was a DoubleDrive nut. This guy was not from Atlanta, but he was a huge DoubleDrive fan. And this is probably 2008, 2009, maybe. I'm thinking. And
Hey,
this,
dude, be cool, man.
you know, and
Just be
DoubleDrive
cool.
had been gone for a while, and he lost his shit. I have never seen anybody fanboy like this kid did.
To Double Drive.
And Elizabeth, you and I were just smiling like, oh my god, this Jelly Bean, man, he's just going nuts.
We're so cool. We know all the cool people. These little kids.
It was just
these days.
It was great though. You know, here's a guy who loves his band, and I mean, it was a split second. As soon as he saw Mike walking down the hall, he was like you could just hear the breath,
inhale.
yeah, just be taken out of this kid. It was awesome. So that's my last story with DoubleDrive.
It was entertaining.
It was very entertaining. One show that kid was done though. Okay, let's move on to.
Well, you could never live up to Double Drive once he
You
played
couldn't
with
live
you
up to
guys.
Mike.
You can't live up to Jelly Bean. Like,
That was
if you
it.
come in with multiple color kit and
With Elizabeth too, it should have been all black. Just paint everything black.
Well, I think he hugged. If I'm remembering right now, I'm thinking back to it. I think Mike was taken aback, and then I think the kid like jumped up and literally hugged him.
I think I remember the hug. Yes, I think I do. Yes.
And he's like, "Okay, man,
Okay,
all
going in
right."
for a hug there. All right, there you go. Cool. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you, thank you. Moving on.
Moving on. Keep walking.
The drummer thing was an issue for a while. Bama, which was the one I thought it was for a second,
Yeah, we had
got
Bama.
into a couple fights before a show.
Got his teeth knocked out before
Got
one
his
show.
teeth knocked
Was it
out.
Couldn't
Elizabeth?
play it. No, it's just Bama. Yeah, it was not Elizabeth that did it. No, and he was like hardcore Christian, and it happened at some Christian metal show.
Before our show, he got into a brawl, and he got his teeth knocked out, and then shut up before the show, which eventually got canceled because I don't even remember why the show got canceled.
Because they didn't have a
But
PA.
it wasn't as good as the Bama story where he got into a brawl before the show, and he had to get into a fight before he drove up to the show.
God bless you, you son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
it was some kind of extreme metal Christian show, and he used to tell us, he'd be like, "Man, you don't understand.
You don't understand, man.
You don't understand. It's rough at these Christian shows."
When they say bless you, you better watch out. It's on.
Oh God, how did we get on this tangent? All right, moving on. We're going to the third and final band we're going to discuss tonight, and we've already alluded to this man and this band quite a few times. I'm talking about a trio that were once part of a seminal glam metal band called South
Seminoles.
Gang, not
Butch!
Seminoles.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, not Seminoles. No, South Gang. So we played South Gang on one of our hair metal episodes. This entire band was in that band. And then they became Floyd's Funk Revival. And then finally they became the Floyds until, I guess, the bass player ditched his wife. And they became the Marvelous Three.
See, this is more information that I've already known. I've known Butch Walker for many years, known his sister for many years. I didn't know any of that.
You didn't know any of that. Well, how about that? Yeah, so
That's what happens.
So
You show
Jace-
up on an Obscuria, you get knowledge.
that's right. So Butch Walker, we've talked about, Jace Fincher, and Slug. So Jace is the bass player, Slug is the drummer. All three of them were in South Gang, and Butch did not sing in South Gang. He was the guitarist.
Should have.
He probably should have. Yeah, that was a bad decision.
Because he can
guy can
cock
sing.
sing better than that guy could have. I don't
Guy
know
can
who it
sing.
was. I don't know that guy's name, but I can guarantee that Butch can sing that better than him.
All right, sir. You've been drinking tonight. You're getting angry on us.
Not getting angry, but I did listen to
That
him
chocolate
earlier
beer you
today,
guys
and that
are
man, he does, from my recollection of past shows, sing Bohemian Rhapsody in almost every show, which means if you can pull that off, you can sing.
Exactly.
So I don't remember this South King singer, but I can guarantee you probably cannot pull off Bohemian Rhapsody.
I think you're right. And I was going to talk about that memory of seeing them as well when he did that a cappella version of Bohemian Rhapsody and had the entire audience singing it with him, and he was just killing it. He started out on piano, and then it just became an a
Yes.
cappella thing.
Sorry to jump the gun there,
No,
but that's
absolutely
I don't know
amazing.
South King, but I remember that recollection.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Marvelous Three, and in 1997 they became the Marvelous Three after being all those other bands, and they reinvented themselves. So they had all this history of doing this kind of glam metal thing, and then they did this sort of funky, glammy power pop thing, and then they were the Floyds with a female singer who was actually Jace Fincher's wife, She got out of the band and they became Marvelous 3, and they reinvented themselves as a power pop alternative band. Just the, syrupy, but just amazing, kind of in that Cheap Trick vein, but new for the time in the late 90s. And they released their first album on Deep South Records. And I think a lot of people don't have this album, but it's really, really great. It's called Math and Other Problems. And they were on the Deep South label, which was out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I remember them having compilations back in the day, and we used to buy these in college. So I was very familiar with Deep South. And they had also put out the Floyds, which I think is why their first album's on that label. But do you have any memories of, or were you a Marvelous 3 fan at all back in this time? 97?
This man hustled. He would go around selling albums out of the back of his car, like pop the trunk,
MC Hammer
CDs.
style.
MC Hammer style. There you go. He would sell the CDs out of the back of his car to pimp his first record. So yes, I never had that first record, but to find out how he got to a major label, which the second label was.
We're going to talk about that, so hold that, because we're going to. That's a great story. That's a great story. We'll get there, but first, let's play a song off Math and Other Problems. Robert, are you familiar, or did you come in on the second album like pretty much everybody else?
No, second album.
Okay. Well, let's play this song. We'll talk about it when we get back, and then we'll talk about the amazing story for the second album.
My sprained ankle is sore from walking on it all day, trying to walk off the Valium that I had to take. Cause I'm 100-pound mess, and I guess that I should leave you alone. I walked into the place that gave me horrible gas. They said you moved to New York to teach a cooking class, but I know that's just a cover-up, cause I still follow you home. Well, I'm beginning to feel like another spinning wheel, and my shield is finally growing thin. And I guess I should find another favorite place to dine, or I'm gonna have to see you again. But don't leave the light on for me, cause you'll just be wasting sleep tonight. It took me 6 whole years to work off all of the weight that I had up on my shoulders, trying to be so great. Now I feel so insecure, and I'm not so really sure that I should. So here's the $100,000 and the 70 cents that should buy back all the love and all the time that you spent trying to make this all work. You know I feel like a jerk, but it's good. But I'm beginning to feel like another spinning wheel, and my shield is finally growing thin. Well, I guess I should find another favorite place to dine, or I'm gonna have to see you again. But don't leave the light on for me, cause you'll just be wasting sleep tonight. But don't leave the light on for me, you'll just be wasting sleep tonight. Tonight.
since Jeremy was making up words, I'm going to make up a word. His songs are always very sing-alongable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's his whole thing, right?
Big harmonies.
Catchy as hell.
Catchy hooks, grab you, good guitars. I mean, any song. You go through the whole album, any of his albums, any of his songs, that's what he's known for. All of that.
And this was
97.
98, 99. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 97. And like you said, they just, they were on the Deep South label and they were with their previous band. Like you said, he was just working it. They were just playing shows and working it and trying to get to the next album, which is an amazing story and is where most people know Marvelous 3 from. I don't think a lot of people even know that there was an album before the second album, which is called Hey Album, which is what we're going to talk about next.
Which the Hey album was that Jeff Tomei?
Well, let's talk about it. So they worked that first album. It's great. It's great power pop, but it's still more on a local level, regional act. And Butch obviously has set his sights. He's been there a little bit with South Gang. They had some success. They were in LA and they came back to Atlanta and had some success and did 2 albums there. So he wants to get back beyond where he was before. And so for the second album, they recorded at Tree Sound, which is a very famous studio here in Atlanta,
Absolutely.
Nickel and Dime.
Yeah.
And then they actually went to New York and finished some stuff in Bearsville. And it's produced by Butch and Jim Ebert, and you've got Michael Barbiero mixing. So I didn't see that Tomei was on this, but he may have mixed some of it. I don't know, because here's the story. So this second album, Hey Album, was originally independent released in 1998.
Yes.
Okay. And so they put it out. Butch did the first album. He did all the production work on that one as well. He's moving into where we all know of him today as Butch Walker's this famous producer. But back then he was, just kind of cutting his teeth on it. And he did the first album and then he does the second album. And there's a very, very strong single called Freak of the Week on this independent release that just catches on. And Marvelous 3 became the darlings of 99X, which is what we were talking about previously. And in 1998, they picked up this song, Freak of the Week, and people went nuts for it. And there was still a lot of money in the music industry at that point in time. And it started a bidding war.
And it made me a lot of money, too.
So talk about that.
Yeah. Like I said, I was manager over Warehouse Music, and we got CDs every week. So being a manager, I got first cut, and I would get Hey Album every week. And that happened for, a couple months. And I would sell it for $5 a pop.
$5?
Because that was the max you could get back in the day. And I made over $100 on that.
Now,
that was a lot of money back then.
That was a lot of money.
Now,
and like I said, I kept the copy because I wanted to know what was making me money.
Now, did you get the original independent release, or did you get the re-release that came out in 99?
We got the re-release.
Okay.
Because it was Warehouse Music, so it was Elektra, I believe.
Yeah, so Elektra won the bidding war, and basically what they did is they re-recorded some of it, so I'm assuming that they went back and tweaked some things, right, to polish it up a little bit.
It's a different track listing and a different production. It's a little, I don't know if they went back and remixed it or what it was, but it sounds different because I've heard the other version. It sounds different, and it's a different track listing.
Yep, and they also dropped 3 songs off of the original version, and they added 2, and the 2 that they added were the 2 other hits, at least regionally, that we know of that 99X played, so good thing they added those 2 extra songs. They re-released it. Originally, it came out in 98. They re-released it on Elektra in 99, and that's the album cover and the version that most people have. The original version goes for quite a bit of money if you have it. I think it was pretty limited release when it first came out. But Freak of the Week was number 5 on Billboard Modern Rock charts. It blew up, and especially, like I said, they were the darlings. They were the hometown heroes here in Atlanta.
Yes.
And you heard Freak of the Week pretty much every hour on the hour for at least a year. I don't know.
Coming up in 30 minutes, we'll play Freak of the Week 4 more times.
And they would sell out wherever they wanted to play.
Yep.
Like, it did not matter where in Atlanta they wanted to play. They would sell it out. There would be people standing outside of the venue trying to get the extra tickets.
And the album itself got to, at its peak in April of 99, got to number 19. It spent 14 weeks on the charts. So again, here's a band in 1999. We thought this band was going to just rule the world. And kind of locally, regionally, they sort of did because, again, we were hearing them all the time. Now, Freak of the Week is the only kind of national hit and international hit that they had. But here locally, they played the other 2 songs that they recorded for the re-release, which is Write It On Your Hand and Every Monday. Mm-hmm. And Every Monday is a just such a great song.
Yeah, I
And
remember every Monday.
Butch still plays it to this day. If he's out doing his solo stuff, that's one of the songs that he plays because it's mostly acoustic, and that's what he kind of leans on these days. But
It's kind of Americana.
yeah, he's been all over the map, but he was, just such a great songwriter, and that's just one of the ones that's really worked. And I mentioned in June 5th, 1999, Atlanta Motor Speedway, we saw the Hard Rock Fest, 127,000 people in attendance, and Marvelous 3 came out first, if I remember right, and Robert, please correct me, but I remember them being the first band, and I think Silverchair were after them, if I remember correctly. And Marvelous 3, there's only 3 of them. They're what most people were considering a local band in the grand scheme of everybody else that was on this thing, and just blew everyone off the stage. I mean, just Butch's command of the stage, and you could tell he was probably the most excited he's ever been on stage, and he just delivered it that
How many
day.
people? 100,000?
127,000 people.
Well, that man could command a crowd.
Yeah, he had stage presence. Now, help me remember something. Did we see them at the Tabernacle before
No.
the show? That was
years
Tabernacle.
later. That was 2 years later.
2 years later.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Okay,
that.
so anyway, but that show it surprised me because I had heard of them, but and I liked the song, but
I'd heard Freak of the Week. It didn't blow me away on the
the
air like it
live
did everybody else.
performance is what got me.
Got me.
And I was
Absolutely.
a fan ever since. Like you said, his stage presence, his command of the crowd, and all of them. I mean, not just Butch, but all of them had that presence to put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, and if you think about who they were playing with that day, so again, they go on in the heat of the day. We're talking June in Atlanta at the Speedway on,
It was hot.
the black. It was hot. And to go on that early in the day and to just command the entire 127,000 people, amazing. So I mentioned Silverchair were there.
Better than Ezra.
Better than Ezra, Everlast, Offspring, Third Eye Blind, Eve 6, Sugar Ray, Live, and Collective Soul.
God, what an
And
awesome
they blew
lineup.
them all the way. And I think the Bosstones were there too, if I'm not mistaken.
They're
I didn't write
everywhere.
it down, but I'm pretty sure they were there.
And by the way, they're coming out
Love
with their
that
12th
band.
album. They just announced it today.
The Bosstones?
Yeah.
All right.
Love that band.
Love them too. One of my favorites.
So hard at work.
Nice. So anyway, yeah, just amazing show. I was a fan for life at that point, and I had heard the singles, but it wasn't until I saw them live that they just blew me away.
We'll get to the Tabernacle show later, you said. That's right.
Yeah, so let's get into a song off of Hey album, and I mentioned all the singles. I don't want to play the single. I want to play the one that I like. Not the one that I like. Well, I like several songs, but this song always just was, I thought was great, and this is a song called Number 27 off Hey album 1999.
She's got the number 27, taking off her license plate, 'cause that was my basketball number back when we started to date. And I know it's better to be unfaithful to the people that you liked last year. Oh yeah, you're still the same. You'll never change. Always a change. You're still the same. She's got a pretty martini collection in the glove box of her car. All the blur and the cure in Oasis cases. Tell me you get struck by stars. And I know it's better to be unfaithful to the people that you liked last year. Oh yeah, you're still the same. You'll never change. Always a change. You're still the same. I can't run, I can't hide. This ain't no Marco Polo.
God, that just transports me. Totally transports me. I haven't heard that whole album in a long time. I've heard a couple of songs off of it. Radio Tokyo was the other song off there.
That was the other album.
Next
that
album.
was Ready, Sex, Go.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
My favorite song from the next album, which
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
may be hearing soon.
Leaving me to jump the gun like that.
Let's talk about the song we just heard. We'll get into Radio Tokyo in just a few minutes. But any other comments on Hey album? I mean, like I said, they were just in the stratosphere with this thing, but they couldn't quite get over the hump.
The Hey album is before its time. Unfortunately, it was very poppy, very hooky, very catchy, which all those mean the same thing. It was before its time. It should have been a lot bigger than it was. Butch was a great singer. He was a great songwriter, as we all know, because he has #1 hits from other bands of songs that he wrote. I don't know why he didn't catch himself, because he did Marvelous 3, then he did solo albums, and nothing broke as well as the songs that he wrote for other bands, because obviously he was a great songwriter, and he was a better singer than most of the bands that sang his songs, but I don't know what it was.
And he's an amazing performer, like we said. I mean, the shows that we saw, he just killed it on stage. I mean, he's a front man. He can just bring it.
This man brought the 80s to the 2000s.
Yeah. So you're right, he was a little ahead of that whole kind of retro is cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
He brought in the 80s kind of still in the 90s when people weren't ready to quite be retro yet.
The stage shows did a lot of that, because he did a lot of the pick flips, all the guitar stuff.
All the cock rock stuff he did.
Yeah, all the cock rock stuff that still in 97, 98, people were still like, too soon.
Exactly.
Still too soon.
Yeah. But he, a lot of people probably didn't know then that he had actually lived that life.
Right.
He
and
was
I
that
didn't.
guy.
It was only later on that I learned that actually he was part of that scene too.
Oh, I didn't know it.
Well, let's set some context. So you actually worked in a studio where Butch was, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know that we had completely that context. So you were working with Butch from time to time.
The first
you knew
time
of Butch.
Yes, the first time I worked with Butch, and I think it was the first time I actually met him, because his sister actually did my hair, which did his hair, which
She did
his
everybody's hair.
Yeah, she did everybody's cool hair in those like late 90s, early 2000s in Atlanta. So she did all his videos and stuff like that. So she did my hair. And then I worked with him on the Bowling for Soup album.
Okay.
Which was
now, where were you working? Were you at Ruby Red, or was that?
I was Nickel and Dime.
Nickel and Dime. Okay.
So he came in to Nickel and Dime with Bowling for Soup for the Life After Lisa, was the big hit, if I'm not mistaken, off that record. There was another song that he wrote. The two songs that he wrote were the two hits off that album. Go figure.
Right.
They couldn't write their own big song. He wrote
We
their
actually
big
opened
song.
for them. You remember that?
We did.
We opened
at
for Bowling
the
for Soup.
Masquerade.
I just remembered that.
We did,
that
because
was a cool
I
show.
think that had something to do with it.
Oh, maybe it did. I don't remember. I just remember thinking that was a cool show because all these kids were going, wow, and I'm like, you don't know who we are, but
Yeah.
I'll take it. All right, so let's move into, all right, in 2000 we get what most of us think is the second album, which is actually the third album, and it's called Ready, Sex, Go, and just like you said, Jeremy, they brought in Jerry Finn. They brought in the punk rock guy, Blink-182, AFI, Sum 41, Green Day, Rancid, Alkaline Trio, go on and on. This guy did it.
Supertrack.
Oh my God, he did so much. So they bring him in to co-produce the third album, and they record most of it at Tree Sound again, which again is a big studio that a lot of people that come to Atlanta, that's where they record, and also at Ruby Red Studios. And it's the first time you see that written because Butch owned it.
Because Butch bought Nickel and Dime. Yeah, so it's fantastic. And I had a little bit of a job at that point in time working with him. Not as much as Nickel and Dime, but I did work with him a little bit on that.
And it's probably how we ended up, the Swear, recording in 2004 at Ruby Red, right?
With Rusty Cobb.
With Rusty Cobb.
Who was his engineer.
Yep. So it all comes back to people we know, right? So anyway, they go in, they record this third album, Ready, Sex, Go, and this is their most glam mixed with power pop album. This is my absolute favorite Marvelous 3 album. Go figure, this is their last one.
Absolutely. My favorite as well.
Yeah.
It's hook laden. It sounds fantastic. It makes you put your arms up in
it rocks.
Glory.
It just rocks. They had 2 singles in pretty good rotation, at least where we were. I'm not sure about the rest of the country. This album basically just, Sugar Buzz came out. It was the first single, and then they did Get Over was the second single. They kind of did moderately well, but from an album Billboard position, it basically came in at 196. It was on the chart for 2 weeks, and then gone.
They picked the wrong singles.
Yeah, it just didn't work for whatever reason. Again, 2000. And so don't know why this didn't catch on. Again, this is my favorite album. And if you read the liner notes, I love the liner notes. I don't know if you've ever gone and looked at them. They're really tiny. You really have to get a magnifying glass. But the liner notes specifically say for guest players, in the guest players section, it says, everywhere there was a big Def Leppard sounding gang vocal. It's Jace, Slug, Jade Lemons, courtesy of Injected, Brad Pitt, Jennifer Lopez, Paul Stanley, Jack Black, and Butch.
All right, that's quite an ensemble.
Which obviously is a joke, but that's just awesome. And you read the liner notes of this album, the whole thing is they're just bullshit all over it. It's so great to read it.
That's one of the reasons I like them.
It reminds me of something we might have done, Robert.
Maybe.
I love this album. I think it's great. I think it's a very big nod to Freddie Mercury and Queen. You can read Butch's stripes all over him, where he comes from, all over this album. My problem with this is, at the time, it was too much 80s and too much guitar harmonies and too much harmonies vocally and too hooky, which you would think that's not bad.
That doesn't exist in my world.
No, at that point
in 2000,
that was not good. But that's the problem with this album. It's too good for the time period. This should have been big. Oh my God, there's so many hooks on this. It's so good.
Somebody should do a podcast about it. So let's play the song. Let's play the song that all three of us have mentioned at this point in time, and now we're going to play it.
Sugar Buzz? You going to play Sugar Buzz?
Nope. My favorite song off of this.
Grant Park?
Nope. My favorite song off of this album is Radio Tokyo.
It's the best song on the album.
She takes the elevator to the second floor, to the underground committee. That's where they'll decide if you'll be praised or you'll be tied up on the bathroom floor as you scream for more. All the souls are dying while some idiots are trying to convince you that they're cooler, but they still don't know. They're about to lose control. They were saying, I'm calling Radio Tokyo. stop the elevator to the second floor, and there was no more.
All these years later, I still have no idea what the lyrics mean, but I feel them so deeply that you find yourself getting moved and just emotional, wanting to sing along with it. And like, no idea what he's talking about, but it's beautiful.
It's like all the young dudes, Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's what you said earlier, Jeremy.
I don't know. Everything just wrapped into one.
Yeah.
He just killed it
all
on
the
this
good
one.
stuff. All the good stuff.
If only he could write an anthem.
This,
If only.
as much as shit as I might get for this is my favorite producer. I love Jerry Finn. Everything he does sounds fantastic. Whether you like the band or not, the production is great. Everything sounds amazing. Everything is hooky. Everything is clear, punchy, big, powerful. And it is displayed mostly in this song. This is my favorite Marvelous 3 song. It's not only grandiose, it shows Butch's love of Queen, Butch's love of Bowie, which if I remember correctly, him telling me that Queen was his favorite band, you can see that in this song. How did this not get big? How is this not their single on this album?
Yeah, I mean, you
This
just
is
have to go back to the
great.
timeline. In 2000, it was just, I think you're right. I think it was just ahead of the curve. Because if you think about, what was big at that time, it was really pop punk. You're talking Jerry Finn. This was in his wheelhouse at this time, right? All of those bands were huge. They tried to kind of say that Marvelous 3 were in that spectrum by using Jerry Finn, but they weren't. It was not that.
No, they were not part of it.
And they were just ahead of the emo thing that was about to break 2-3 years later.
Oh, the
right?
end of this song is Black Parade.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The whole My Chemical
The Black
Romance
Parade
thing. Yep.
is the end of the song.
You're absolutely right.
So he was just ahead of the time, ahead of the curve here. Sort of, you were talking about Bowie. Bowie did the same thing. A lot of his releases at the time they came out, they were just ahead of the curve. And now people reflect back and think Bowie's just brilliant. And he was, but a lot of times he was ahead of things, and it took him to push things to a different world. And this could have been the same thing, but it didn't happen. Now, on January the 26th of 2001, Robert and I went to the Tabernacle, and we saw one of their last, I guess, touring performances.
Mm-hmm.
And they played that song, and I believe Bohemian Rhapsody was either just before it or just after it. And again, it started off with piano and then ended up a cappella, and Butch just commanding the audience. Even that show was almost more special than the first time we saw them at the big festival. But
no, 100% was. It was a religious experience. That was the time that you and I were in transition between one version of Big Jack Pneumatic and the final version, which was the best version. And we had been in a band, you and I had been in a band for a few years. And I had come to the realization that we were not doing what we should be doing. We were playing our songs, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
We were missing the part about putting on a show. And I came to that realization, like, we have got to go bigger, louder, faster, everything together. We need to put on a show, because this is a master showman that we just saw.
yeah, how can we take some of that?
Take a tiny bit of that.
Yeah.
The way he commanded the emotions of that audience. And there's a recording of that show that I've got somewhere that I've it's maybe 2 or 3 laptops ago if it survived the transitions.
Yep.
But it really was a powerful thing to sit through and to watch.
It was amazing. And so they would end up, we saw them in January of 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And by the spring of 2001, now this thing had only been released late 2000. By the spring of 2001, they were done with their tour already, and Butch put this statement out. There has been an incredible amount of lack of interest for the band over Elektra, cough, Neglectica, cough, cough, records. And that comes at no surprise, seeing that every record they put out most recently sinks like a dead anchored body in the Hudson River. Well, the time has come. We are free from Elektra. I have asked them to let us go, and they did. We did not, this is in caps, we did not get dropped. I asked to leave. So they left Elektra. Butch couldn't deal with it, and he's like, that's it. Band's done. We're out. And that's what happened. And the last official show, bringing it all back to 99X, was the August 3rd, 2001, 99X on the Bricks at Centennial Olympic Park. That was their final show.
And Jace went on to be the sound engineer for Buckhead Church.
Yep. Yeah, they all went on to do some other things. Now, Butch, he ended up being able to eat doing some production work, from what I understand.
Man, just scraped by.
Yeah, I mean, Butch continued doing his solo stuff, and he had a couple of different bands with crazy names but he kind of bounced all over the place. He never got back to doing this type of thing, which is, to me, where I love the Butch Walker stuff, is in this whole kind of glammed up power pop phase. Everything he did after that was a little more Americana, indie. It was still poppy, but I don't know. For me, it never clicked the same way that Marvelous 3 did.
The first couple albums were a lot more this meets, I hate to even say it, but My Chemical Romance. It was that kind of poppy, emo-ish, weird old guy writing songs for teenage girls kind of thing. He didn't hit the Americana till later, because that leftist self-centered was still very bombastic, still had a lot of pop, had a little guitars to it, and there was a couple good songs on there.
Yeah, no, he says some great stuff. Like I say, it just didn't click with me the same way Marvelous 3 did. And then, obviously, most people know Butch from all the production work that he's done. And he did a lot of early 2000s soundtracks like Spider-Man, Scorpion King, Scooby-Doo, all these soundtracks he did. He produced Lit, SR-71, Injected. He did Seven Dust album Seasons. The Donnas, he did Gold Medal. Avril Lavigne, Lindsay Lohan. Did you know he produced Lindsay Lohan? Pink. He's done a couple albums for Pink. He's done a couple of things for Katy Perry. He did 2 albums for Weezer, Train, Taylor Swift, Keith Urban, Fall Out Boy, and most recently he's done Green Day and Adam Lambert. I mean, wow.
Basically, he's a songwriting genius.
Yeah, he's done all right for himself.
If you want hooks and pop, he can do it for you.
Yep. So that's where we are. Marvelous 3 are no more since that time in 2001. But one of my favorite live memories, those 2 shows. Absolutely. I only saw them twice, and those 2 shows were amazing. So
there's not too many bands that are going to have the singer/guitar player and the bass player throw picks to each other via kicking it and the other one catching it and play without missing a beat.
I forgot about that. You're right.
The Marvelous 30 will do that for you.
Yeah. Go look up some YouTubes and see if you can find that. I forgot about all the pick play they used to do. It's kind of cool. The things that impress us, right?
Yeah.
Kind of stupid things, but they're fun. Yeah, so that's what I have for you, man. I just, I always get on my soapbox, but these are 3 bands that were signed, had major label deals, knowing them locally or knowing somebody who knew them. They were supposed to be just huge. We were all proud of them to be in this town and be in bands from this town and to have these bands represent us. And unfortunately, these 3 bands never went to the level that I thought they should have. So
still proud of having them around.
Still proud of having them around. They're amazing bands. I wish people would discover them now. I wish the algorithms would find them more frequently than they do. That'd be nice in this whole streaming
now
world.
They will.
Maybe now they will. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I lived with these bands. We tried to ride the coattails of these bands. They're fantastic. They wrote good songs, all 3 of them. Injected with the power, Butch with the hooks, doubleDrive with just the good songwriting.
Yep.
They did great stuff. All 3 of these bands should have been a lot bigger. They should have brought Atlanta to the forefront. They should have brought a lot of other bands to the forefront, but they didn't.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, and at that time, with all these bands, and the others that we mentioned, the Stuck Mojos and the Seven Dust Collective Soul, at that time, they were saying, because it was all about, the early 90s was the Seattle scene, right? And so they were all waiting, everybody was waiting for the next town that was going to be the next scene, and, was it Chapel Hill? And at this point in time, it was Atlanta. People were looking at Atlanta, and people were moving to Atlanta, like myself, to try to make a go at this thing. But yeah, it just didn't quite happen that way. Atlanta became, and still is, just hip hop central, and that's cool, if you're into that. But from a rock standpoint, this was kind of the last stand from what we had, I think, from this level of artist at least. Jeremy, man, thanks for joining us. It's a blast.
Thanks for having me. I always have a blast coming here. It's always a fun time.
You wanna plug the Foo Fighters tribute band?
I think we actually have a show coming up.
Oh my God, there's a show. What's the name of this band, sir?
Color and Shape. We might have a show, but unfortunately it might be a private event, and we might have Kent playing drums for this event.
Hey, we're going to have a show, but you can't come.
It was good. Yeah, it was a really good plug.
Yeah.
We're going to have a show.
It's going to be awesome.
You cannot attend unless you work for said employer.
Like I said, we haven't done anything for a while because of COVID. Thank you very much. Fuck you.
By the way, Jeremy, I'm having a show, and you can't come either. Yeah.
So, I mean, the Firehouse would be a great place to play.
Yeah,
but,
okay. Well, I'll give you our price sheet.
whatever.
Spec sheet.
Here's our rental rates.
So you guys, before COVID, you guys were playing, what, regionally at least?
Yeah, we were about to start touring nationally. We were about to actually start doing a tour. But COVID said, fuck you, and that's where we're at now. We, I guess, are going to start doing shows here and there.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, so you do a Foo Fighters tribute. Now, the last time we chatted, the album hadn't come out yet, so what are your thoughts on Medicine at Midnight?
Okay, so I've heard lots of reviews of this album. A lot of people are shitting on this album.
I heard that too. I don't really get it.
I don't get it either, because they're fucking stupid, because this album is fucking great. The last album sucked ass.
Jeremy, don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me what you really think.
Okay. Concrete Gold was not that great. This Medicine at Midnight is fantastic. There's some shake your booty, get on the dance floor, shake your ass kind of grooves on this album. It's a good album. The singles that they put out, they're all right.
Yeah,
those are the worst songs of the album.
The first single is such a bad choice, but I agree with the new Foo Fighters, Medicine at Midnight. The rest of it rocks,
It's
man.
fantastic.
I really dig it. It's a different version of the band, so if you want second album, third album, that's not what you're getting.
No, you're getting shake your booty, have a good time. We want to have a good party, drink a beer, shake your butt, Cloud Spotter, Medicine at Midnight. Those are fantastic songs.
All right, man. Well, next time you have a show that we can't come to, I want you to play that whole album for us, okay? It's awesome to have you here. Robert, any last words from you, sir?
Good night.
That's it. Later, peeps.
Krusty never says fake news.
Fake news.